The Advocacy Team Summit. We are thrilled you're here, and we are thrilled that Senator Gillibrand is joining us this afternoon to talk to you. I'm not sure how much introduction she needs, but I will say, I think you know, she's a senator from New York. She was first elected to the House in 2007, appointed to fill Hillary Clinton's seat in the Senate in 2009. She won the 2010 special election, followed by general elections in 2012 and 2018. She's currently a member of the Senate Committees on Environment and Public Works, Armed Services, Agriculture, Nutrition, Forestry, and Aging. FCNL has worked closely with Senator Gillibrand's office on arms control, nuclear risk reduction issues, as well as the effort that you are all very familiar with, reasserting congressional authority over war.
All right.
We appreciate Senator Gillibrand's willingness to take on these tough foreign policy issues. And with this gathering of advocates who have worked so diligently for the repeal of the outdated authorizations for the use of military force, we are grateful for her leadership to ensure that Congress takes back its constitutional duty to determine whether the United States goes to war. I want to thank you for your boldness and for your staff's work with FCNL in taking on this difficult issue. Like you, we believe your willingness to work on something that will finally move us forward from the impasse of the last 18 years of war under the 2001 and 2002 AUMFs is essential. Your leadership at this moment is so important. It is what is needed to make progress and to make some real change. And finally, I just want to note and thank the Senator for her consistent and relentless, being a consistent and relentless champion for women's issues.
Yay.
This has been manifest during her time as a U.S. Senator, as well as during her tenure as a presidential candidate, and we are grateful for that. Welcome.
Thank you so much. Good afternoon. It is such a privilege and a pleasure to be here with you today. I'm so grateful for all the work you guys have done over the years to really effectively and aggressively ask for the repeal of the 2001 and 2002 authorizations for the use of military force. You should give yourself a hand of applause. I think it is fundamentally important that we keep advocating that Congress take back its war powers authority.
That's right.
Yep. The 2001 and 2002 AUMFs were never meant to give the president a blank check for the use of military force. Never. Since they were passed, however, presidential administrations have used these authorizations to involve our military in wars far beyond their original intent. Congress has relinquished its power to declare war against new enemies or in new countries. I have served on both the House and Senate Armed Services Committee, and I now serve as the ranking member for Personnel Subcommittee on the Armed Services Committee. So I am all too familiar with the impact that the congressional inaction has had on our service members, their families, and our alliances abroad. The wars launched with these AUMFs have gone on much longer than Congress intended. Our war in Afghanistan was started 18 years ago. The war was authorized less than 3 weeks after 9/11. You could still smell the smoke smoldering in the wreckage of the towers. And our intention was the war was to be short. It was intended to be quick, a quick response to take out terrorists who attacked us on our own soil. We had the whole world on our side and a very clear mission. And our military, with our allies, got the job done. We decimated Al-Qaeda in Afghanistan. But then, we never left. We are still fighting in Afghanistan. We have been in this war for so long that we are now recruiting new service members who were not yet born when the war was declared. And 16 years ago, we went into Iraq based on a falsehood that Saddam Hussein had weapons of mass destruction. American troops are still in Iraq today. And not only have these wars gone on for longer than intended, but presidents have since expanded them to new territories. We have sent our service members to fight in Syria. We're involved in Yemen. We have troops in over a dozen other countries without congressional debate or approval, without a clear mission, and well beyond the intent of the original AUMFs. Every year, more and more people are paying the ultimate price for these endless wars. Over 7,000 American military members have died since 2001, and so many U.S. service members have returned severely injured by wounds both seen and unseen. Since 2001, the United States and our allies have lost over 500,000 lives in these war zones. That is according to a report that was published today by the Watson Institute at Brown University. That number doesn't even include all the people who died because of a lack of access to water, to food, to medical attention caused directly by these wars. Moreover, these wars have cost nearly $6 trillion. $6 trillion. The fact of the matter is, meeting the terror threat does not require holding territory. We know that terror groups have metastasized, they recruit and plan online. They can strike us or our allies regardless of physical control of any given territory. We have the best intelligence professionals in the world, quick reaction forces, the best military assets deployed around the world. There is no geography we can't reach on short notice. We don't advance our goals by stationing tens of thousands of U.S. troops and heavy equipment in countries that don't want us there, that are very costly to supply. In fact, we do the opposite. Instead, we should be utilizing 21st century technology and strategies to address modern day threats. We should turn to our international partners first to find diplomatic solutions before turning to military force. Our presidents must stop using post 9/11 AUMFs to wage military action across the Middle East without accountability or buy-in from the American people. Yes. Our founders of our country designed our government deliberately to ensure that no branch of government held too much power. In their design, they gave Congress the power to authorize war. Congress is supposed to be the embodiment of the will of the people. We, members of Congress, are supposed to represent the people of our districts and of our states. We're supposed to represent the interests of Americans and our constituents. When decisions are made unilaterally by a president, Congress fails to meet their constitutionally given responsibility to hold presidents accountable for endless and unnecessary wars. It's time for Congress to reclaim their foreign policy role and accept their own constitutional responsibility. So today, I'm introducing the War Powers Reform Resolution. This legislation would end the manipulation of congressional authorizations for military force to create and extend wars Congress never agreed to. It would stop the endless wars that are now undermining our national security. It would repeal the 2001 and 2002 AUMFs that authorized the Afghanistan and Iraq wars. This would eliminate the ability of President Trump and any future president to use authorizations that are nearly 2 decades old for wars that have expanded significantly beyond the original scope of those authorizations. But simply repealing the AUMFs is not enough. We need to fundamentally change these powers for long-lasting change. We understand the consequences and costs of wars all too well. Earlier this fall, I visited the 10th Mountain Division of the U.S. Army base in Fort Drum, New York. Since 2001, the 10th Mountain Division has deployed more times than any other unit in the country. And those service members are deeply devoted to serving our country, no matter what it requires or no matter the cost. But I have heard from service members and their families about the toll that these multiple repeated deployments have taken on them. They face physical and mental health challenges because of the time away from their families. It should be the responsibility of our elected leaders to use our troops' service and dedication to this country carefully and only when needed. This is one of the many reasons military force should be used only as a last resort. If we do need to use military force, the mission must have clear and achievable goals with tactics that match the threat. And it must be done faithfully to the Constitution, with the full weight of congressional oversight and a clear explanation to the American people and our military of its purpose, goals, and targets. My legislation would require any future AUMFs passed under expedited procedures in Congress to have 5 clearly defined conditions. First, a president would be required to provide Congress with a specific objective of the military action. Second, the administration would have to provide a clear justification for Congress for the need of military force and with clarity that the force is necessary, appropriate, and proportional to the mission. A president's justification for military force would have to be far clearer than it is now to allow the American people to better hold an administration responsible for their action. Third, an administration would be required to provide a finite list of specifically named adversaries involved in the military action, without the option to expand the scope of action unless Congress approves. Fourth, the administration would have to state in which countries or sub-regions of countries the missions would occur, preventing the use of force outside of those specified regions. Lastly, Congress would not approve any AUMF for longer than 2 years. If a president sees cause for a continuation of the military action, he or she would have to file a new AUMF with Congress. And when Congress wants to narrow or repeal an authorization, it could use the same expedited procedures used for a new AUMF, allowing Congress to make decisions not only on starting wars, but also ending wars. Critically, to enforce these requirements and uphold congressional oversight, my legislation would limit the use of congressionally appropriated funds to support only the actions authorized under the AUMF and not any actions beyond its scope. Our democracy was built to represent the will of the people, and the job of Congress is to reflect that and to protect the people. When military action is taken without the consideration of Congress, members are abdicating their responsibility to the country and putting at risk our national security and the security of the American people. It is time to reclaim Congress's full foreign policy role by changing the way the military action is authorized. Endless wars must be a thing of the past. Instead, focused and deliberate military action must be used sparingly and when we need it the most. We owe this to our service members, their families, and to all Americans.